Happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year.
Hello out there.
Happy New Year, everyone. I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah, it's been a day or two.
We are here. It is another Heart to Heart with the Sawyers. I'm Antoinette. This is my husband, Clifton. And we are the
Mm.
pastors of Cornerstone Life Center, which is now a virtual church. And we are so glad to have you with us this morning. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see who's come in. If anybody's come in, Sandra's first today.
Miss
You're the
Esther.
early bird, Sandra and Esther. Y'all were playing tag. See who was gonna get here first.
Bondo.
Hey, Deb.
All
Happy
right.
New Year to you, sweetheart.
Good to see you back, all of you,
Mm-hmm.
so far.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Sue. Hope you had a good New Year.
Okay, Sue. Morning to you. Morning to all of you.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, Jill.
Okay. You guys are ready to go, I see. That Liberty Vern
There's Vernon. Hey, Vernon.
motor
Hope you
car.
and Johnny and Mom are doing good.
Okay.
And Sissy and brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
I like Sandra's little Happy New Year picture. Hey, KK. I hope you and James are doing well.
Yeah, good, good. Okay.
Are you awake yet?
Yeah, I'm awake.
You
I'm just
awake?
just looking at who's coming up.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you guys watch the New Year come in, or you guys went to bed early? Hey, Nathan and Donna. Glad you guys are here this morning.
Okay, Nathan and Donna, good to have you.
Mm-hmm. Did you all watch the New Year come in, or did you go to bed? We couldn't go to bed.
No, we couldn't.
Oh, I
Baby
declare. Let me
girl.
bring you up to date. New Year's Eve, I was getting ready to go to bed. I think it was about 11:30. Yeah, about 11:30. And baby girl, of course, our dog had to go out and do her business. And when she did, she couldn't do her business. Uh, number two, that is. And hey, Dee Dee and George. Good morning, Phyllis. Good
Yeah.
morning, Judy.
Good morning, all of you guys.
So anyway, I was about to go to bed, and baby girl came up with diarrhea
Mm-mm.
on New Year's Eve,
Mm-mm.
just before bed. And the vets are closed the next day.
Mm.
And it was not just diarrhea, it was a bloody diarrhea. So we had to get up first thing New Year's morning and go to the
Emergency.
the pet emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to stay over there. We were over there. We got there about 11,
About
and
4 or 5 hours.
yeah, about 4 or 5 hours we were there. And
$600.
yes,
Yeah.
I said there went my stimulus check.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, turns out she had gastroenteritis, and they put her on a whole lot of meds, gave her fluids, and we had to cook chicken for her, and she didn't want to eat anything, of course. So our new year so far has been nursemaiding our
Yep.
dog.
Yep.
So anyway, she's better. Her energy's back, and she's looking hungry. So she's doing much better. In fact, she's right here now looking for something to eat and put in her mouth. But I am so glad you guys are here, and we're going to get started in just a second. I want to do our prayer of surrender. Bring our minds into our hearts. Let's bring our mind into our hearts, because some of our minds are scattered. I know mine is everywhere. Even though I've had my thoughts focused on doing the live this morning, if you get busy doing so many other things and your mind leaves your heart, especially if you get into a space of concern. So let's put our mind in our heart right now by going into a prayer of relinquishment. So I want you to sit back if you can get comfortable and get quiet. I hope there are no distractions around you. turn your TV down or whatever. But unless you're watching this on TV, of course. And let's just sit back and relax for a moment and get still. And I always remember the scripture that says, "Be still and know that I am God." So stillness is the beginning of knowing. And that knowing should bring you into a place of I am. And on the end of that, of course, is God. So repeat this after me if you would. I relinquish the ownership of this body. I relinquish the ownership of this mind. I let go of everything I think I already know. I relinquish the ownership of this life.
Mm-hmm.
I return to you what has always been yours.
Mm-hmm.
I give up the right to claim anything as my own. I surrender all self-identities and mental belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
I let go of trying to keep anything from happening. I let go of trying to make something happen. I let go of trying to avoid anything.
Mm-hmm.
I embrace all and accept what is. And amen.
Okay.
All right. You ready, Mr. Sawyer?
I'm here.
You just here. That's all.
No, I'm here. Wait, let's see which way you going. Heaven is who we are. If you can look beyond hell, which are in the same place in these bodies. You can be in the body or out of the body, or your awareness can be in heaven or hell. But you'll have to leave the place of identifying with the finite in order to see that heaven is what the eternal self is made out of. Heaven is everything that God is, and God is everything that we are in our infinite self.
Excuse me.
Excuse us for a minute. Somebody's coming up the walkway.
Came in the driveway.
And we're trying to talk to you guys, and our watchdog went off. But anyway, we thank you so much for being with us today. We are the manifestation of our true selves in every step that we make, whether conscious of it or not. The real self cannot come and go as we suppose that it has and does when we say we have God in us, or we are just saved or not saved. So in order for you to walk this walk of never ending heaven, you're going to have to look at that part of you that never comes to an end. And we are in this world, and there's only one or two things you can do in this world: is you can wake up or go back to sleep. Or you can wake up and look at waking up for a second and then slip back into sleep. We don't need to keep going back and forth because of circumstances and situations that come up. These circumstances and situations are designed just like it was with the dog barking and somebody standing out on the step talking. We don't need to be interrupted because something in this physical world is recognized as an interruption. But the world is full of interruptions, and the key to this thing is being locked in to your infinite self. And we shouldn't wait to get to a church service or wait to be around somebody that talks about heaven or talk about being saved. We don't need to wait before we can get to a certain position, a certain place to decide that God is with us. We don't need to wait for answers to come. There is a place that you walk in God or with your identity that has nothing to do with manifestations at all. Manifestations should not be the top line of our determining whether we are in union with Christ or not. So now we are into the mystical side of you. Everybody that's listening to us this morning, you are a mystic. The mystical side of you is the fact that you are finite and divine at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that infinite divine self is constant, never go. It never diminishes. It never is weak. It's never strong. It's never weak. It's never poor. It's never cold. It's never hot. It's never in one day and out the next.
Yes.
It is no such thing as leaking or having a crack in that area of where you lose that self, that eternal self. I hope you guys are listening to it, because we're going to stay in this area, because that is this area of eternalness is the package deal.
Yes. Yes. And I was just, I'm sorry I had to get out for a little bit to let her in. I got something delivered today that was supposed to be delivered tomorrow. So anyway, you hear baby girl's doing well. And Pastor, this morning I was thinking about how even though we have this understanding of one and knowing of oneness, our oneness with God, we tend to still have a belief that there is a power separate from God.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
One that is almost equal, just one is good and one is bad.
Mm-hmm,
And as long as that belief is held, we will always feel like we are fighting against something that's trying to stop us.
Mm-hmm.
We'll always feel like we are not quite making the grade, because we are not that power that God is, or we're not seeing that power that God is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of our problems are coming from the belief, or stemming from the belief that we have that there are two powers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
a good one and an evil one. But I remember in the garden when Adam was created, that there was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and that was the tree that God did not want them to eat of, the tree of duality, the tree of seeing things as opposites,
Mm-hmm.
the tree of seeing two powers.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of, if you're going by the narrative in Genesis, that's part of the curse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so Jesus came along encouraging us to see with a single eye and not a double vision.
Mm-hmm.
You need help?
Yeah. Okay.
So double vision causes us to see that even though there's good in the world, we're seeing more evil than good, and we're more prone to believe in the evil than we are the good, unfortunately.
And that's because of a sickness.
Yes, that's the sickness that we all have, which is the double vision.
We are eternal self. We are the perfect us. God, me, and the God self are in the same compartment together. It is the no agent self, the no agent you, the no agent me.
Yes.
The mind is the illusionary side of age and years and month. Our spiritual DNA is God. Welcome back home. Excuse me. When you start thinking like this or saying things about yourself like this, excuse me, please. It is our younger self that's speaking. Our younger, no aging, no old.
Our ageless self.
Ageless
Yeah,
self.
our
That's what.
ageless
That's
self.
it.
Yes. Our age. And many of us haven't really learned the language of our ageless self. This is a different language. And a lot of times the mind, especially that mind that is dual or sees everything in twos, it does not know the language.
The mystical side of you has always been there, even when you didn't consciously, or whether you say in your mind, knew about Christ or knew about Jesus or knew about Calvary. There's a lot of people know about the crucifixion of Jesus and dying for your sins, but there's very few people actually can go in and find out, even if it's so obvious, that you and him, us, all of us, conglomerates together, and came into the awareness, whether accepted or not. Galatians 2:20, we were all crucified with him, and co-identity. That is one of the most powerful things that struck us, co-identity. If you don't do anything to go in the book of St. John or anywhere in the Course in Miracles and look in any book, I don't care what it is, and meditate on union with Christ and find everything in there about your oneness with God, it will literally blow your socks off.
Yeah.
You'll have to put an extra piece of tape on your socks to keep them from blowing off because it will show you that you are in the same class as God.
That's
Now,
right.
that's without the ego.
That's right. Well,
That's without the smell
one
of
of the
hell.
yeah, and I think those who are listening to us particularly are on their journey, not to union, but more deeply into their union. And the final stage of union is when you have a perplexity of how you're going to relate to God. You don't know how you're going to relate to God because you don't relate to God as an other. And that's difficult for the mind because the mind is only trained in an other, me and so that's the final stage of union is when you have that perplexity. Okay, how do I now relate to God? Because your knowing is conflicting with the duality seeing.
You hear people say, well, you sound just like your mom. You sound just like your daddy. He used to do that when I went to be. That's the way we are in Jesus.
So in your knowing of being one with God, and I don't want to even say one with because that implies two. So oneness is not two. And in your knowing of who and what you are, they're not two. So that is here has to be the one. Has to be the one. And so at that stage, there's neither a clinging to a pleasant feeling nor a rejecting of painful feelings. And so it's like, okay, I don't live by my feelings anymore. The feelings are always going to be there. Either they're going to be up today or down today. I don't know which. When I get out of bed, I don't know when I wake up which way my feelings are going to go. I don't even know which thoughts are going to be presented to me. But I do know that I am one when I get out of bed. So you live by your knowing, not by your feelings, by your moods, not by your thoughts or what your beliefs are at that moment, because they could be going wacky.
The shocker is the discovery or allowing to be found out that there is a you that leaves this body, and you'll find out that you're still existing. You cannot ever cease to exist.
And that you're not damaged.
And I tell you, this thing
Regardless
is
of what happened to your body that caused you to leave it, you was not damaged when you come out of it.
Yeah. When you wake up to your true identity, it's called being back home. When you wake up to your true identity, it is realizing that you are, now watch this, you are the eternal love, eternal forgiving self.
Yes.
You, it is that you that does not hold any memories of what was done to it or done to the part of you that responds to something being done to.
Right. Right.
In your infinite identity, your forgiven self, you are not the something that can be done to.
Right.
You're not the done to. That's pretty good, but done to.
The done to. The done to.
The
Okay.
done to is the done to that says, look what they done to me. And look what they did to him. You're not the done to or did to or want to do to.
So as the memory of whatever was done to or not done to and comes up, there's a
They did it.
then comes the frustration and the disturbance.
And the disturbing frustration that done to wants to defend itself. Oh Lord, have mercy on your soul. Anybody's soul we got a hold in it. You're gonna find out that there's something that wants to defend itself. And I'm gonna tell you something else. Something in that condition shift says, if I had to do it over again, I would say, forgive me. You cannot. Once the water gone under the bridge, you can't get it back. But what is that keeps giving off the idea that if I could just get to him, and whatever you want to get to is to get to, done to. I did it too. They want to do it too, and everybody did it to me.
Well, I'll kind of go back just a little bit, because what I realize is this, is that when we get out of bed in the morning, we get out of bed, and then for a brief period of time, very brief, there are no, what is it?
I look at what somebody said. I'm not the done to.
Done to. I saw that. So for a brief period of time, when I wake up, there's no thoughts, there's no feelings or anything, but eventually the mind goes back online, and when it does, along with it comes a state of consciousness. It's either you need some caffeine.
I'm okay.
You're about you've been yawning the whole time.
Okay. I'm okay.
But there's when that state of consciousness comes up, it's either coming from a thought that just went through, or it could be just a feeling. I remember the other night we had a Zoom, and one of the young ladies said to me, I talked to her later afterwards, she said she had a dream about her mom. No, not her mom. She had a dream about herself in a casket, and she was trying to figure out why she had this dream. And in the casket, it looked like her mom. So she wanted to ask me what I thought about it, what was my take on it. And before I could answer her, she said, "Oh, I know what it is." I said, "Well, what?" She said, "It's my mom's birthday." And her mom has passed. So she didn't realize that what was coming up in her subconscious was the thought of her mama being gone and having passed. So it didn't come with clarity enough for her to realize in the beginning what was happening. So that created that. We wake up with those kinds of things.
This is what they call black box anniversaries. In the black box, there's a part of the black box in an airplane or
Black
train
box anniversary.
that holds on to those masses, those things that has an emotional charge to it. And this emotional charge, it uses the atmosphere that the event took place, the surroundings of that took place, and what was going on during that time of something took place, tragic or good.
Right.
And it uses the memories in the black box. It uses those recordings or those credits, what they call them on the computer, that comes up.
Pop-ups.
Pop-ups. They are pop-ups that come out of the
And they're
black
instant
box.
replays
Yeah,
as well.
they're
Yeah.
instant replay. So that part of you that's going over and over and over and over memories that took place back when you were 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, that is not you doing that.
So what I hear you saying is that those things have a trigger.
Yeah, the
We
trigger.
may not know what
and
the trigger is.
All right, you can find the trigger because notice that if you were standing in the window when your mama, when you were little, she was standing in the window looking out the kitchen window and she said something to you that hurt you, or you got a phone call during that time when you were 6 or 7, every time you go to the window, the memories of that in that black box will pop up. And if you got an injury that took place.
I got a better example.
Okay.
I told you about it last night. I got a couple, but I'll tell a funny one. Years ago, I had a great aunt. Her name, we called her Nani. And Nani was a very intellectual woman. She used to teach school, but as she got older, she became a seamstress, and she could sew anything, she could tailor anything. Anyway, Nani didn't like taking baths. She would drink her gin and 7-Up on her little glass sitting on the side of her sewing machine all day long, but she did not take a bath. But she would always put on this Topaz made by Avon perfume. And so now, if I smell anything that smells like Topaz,
that's the black
the
box.
memory of my aunt not bathing and how that smell was comes back, and it brings that. So, and there's other incidents that I've had where things make me remember certain things. And so those moods come up from something. They're triggered by something, like you said, the black box anniversary.
And see those recordings in there will come up, and if you don't know that you are not those recordings, you will whatever that you is, whoever that you is that believes it, whatever it is, it says, remember when. And if you identify with that script, remember when they get the black box out of a train or airplane, that box is sealed. It was put there and designed to be in us the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In God, there is no good and evil. It's just God is all love or good and evil, you won't call it, but it's not that. It's a different way. Yeah. Now, the black box recorded everything. That's the judgment. That recording in that is a judgment. And if you don't transcend it, I'm going to be honest with you. If I don't say anything else, we don't say anything else to you, it would pay you great dividends to investigate into what we're talking about as being the eternal self. It's you can be eternal. See, a lot of people waiting for a day to come. I'll be home after last. Oh, finally, I'll be in that place where there's no more tears, no more crying.
Well, and not only that, now that puts it off to after we leave our bodies. But a lot of us are still waiting for some moment
and the black
of
box,
enlightenment where I feel like I'm not what I used to be.
The black box will give off the idea of those recordings in that you are hopeless and that you can't, that you are a slave to these things. Now, when they pull the black box out of a train or an airplane, that plane and that train are separated.
So
from the black box.
So based on what you're saying, the question is, am I living out of my black box?
Oh.
And so, and all we are, all we do when we wake up into these new days, which is the same day, when we wake up with a state of consciousness, but then it may get changed based on what gets triggered in the black box.
Yeah.
If it gets triggered and I follow it and go into the black box, not realizing that I am not that state of consciousness, I am what is conscious of that state.
Yeah.
I am what is conscious of that state. And so when I have that mood come over me, I am not that mood. I am what is aware of that mood. And so when I believe I am that mood and I begin to try to get rid of it, Then I have dived in. I'm in the black box.
That past trauma is recorded in that box, and it seeps out like a oil can been laying in the flow of the bottom of the ocean, and it's got a lot of radioactive or fallout in it, and it records everything.
It records everything because it doesn't have preferences. It doesn't have judgments. It will accept whatever happens.
Yeah. And we call it subconscious, whatever you want to call it, but it is there. And if you and here's what it'll do. It also records odors and smells.
Sure, everything. Well, it does. It pulls all of the sensory. All of the senses are involved in the memory
Based on
because
events.
for me, with my aunt Nani, it's smell. It's smell that triggers it.
When you hear the words come out of your mouth, and we talk about it, something talks about it often, and just something you just look at, and it says, I just remembered that Christmas about this same time, my mother passed, and if you're not careful, it'll bring up within the black box is the emotions that goes with it.
Yes.
The emotions is what the electrical charges are all about. Now, when I studied into the energy centers down through the solar plexus area in the back, these energy centers is what empowers the charge to be placed in the black box and to remain in the black box to be real. So whenever the event comes up, the occasion, the surrounding, the environments, and all of that kind of stuff come up, it'll bring with it those smells and odors that'll give off the idea that you are still in it. The sounds,
That's right.
the blast,
Yes.
the gun blast, or the dropping of a glass, or somebody slammed the door, or somebody may something that comes on television, or a radio, or most of this songs take me back.
Well, that was the other one that I was going to give an example of. Years ago, when I was a little kid, there was this horrible wreck that was on Old Greensboro Road in Winston, and it was on. Everybody was talking about it, of course, and it was on the news and all of this. And at the time that I heard it, there was this song playing, and so later on, my dad took us out to the scene. I don't know why. He took us out to the scene, and we actually saw where it happened. And there was some things that I saw that it really stuck with, that stayed with me. So now, every time I hear that song, I feel that sense of sadness come. And I know why it's coming because I'm remembering and recalling what I had, what was happening at the time that song was playing.
Notice you said, I remember. The I that's remembering is connected to the black box.
Yes. And if I did not know who is aware, what is aware here of that, I would go into that black box.
Sometimes when that stuff come up, it'll give off the idea, I need to pray about this. I need to fast about this.
I need to get rid of it.
I need to get rid of it. Your awareness, the awareness that you are as awareness, observing awareness, you automatically now know, since we've been talking to you, but let's go back up. Let's back up. You must deal with whatever it is in there that's attracted to the information in the black box. That's the charge.
Well, can we go back and
go back.
Kind of recontextualize a little bit. If I had no interest in it,
that's it.
My attention would not stay there.
That's it.
So what is it here in my psyche that's interested in me, in that's happening? What is it in my psyche that is that it appeals to? So there is this thought that I am bringing this to my. Let me see if I can say it. It's like we're thinking the thought, and we're not thinking the thought at all. We're not deliberately bringing any of this up. all of it, it all comes because it's just
Involuntarily.
in the data banks. It's in the data banks. And for whatever reason, there's a trigger to it, connected to it, that recalls it. And when it does, I believe that there's a me, that there's a little me that believes it has to deal with it. If I can remain as the unattached witness, then there won't be a disturbed me here. But if I attach myself to it and I have a resentment for it coming up, I will have frustration and internal suffering.
Here's the clue again.
Nathan, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Okay. These pop-ups from the black box.
And Judy's asking, what do we do with the triggers? You don't do anything with the triggers.
I'm going back. I'm going to oversimplify this thing.
Okay.
Everybody you meet wear clothes. Some wear shoes more or less than others. We all in this box, this world,
this bubble,
yeah. Now you're asking something that has been going over and over as a repeat. How do I get rid of it? I asked the question. I'm walking at the mall, and all of a sudden there's a part of me, a part of them that says, when you look at somebody, I'm glad I'm not like that. Everybody in that area is just alike. Okay.
And it doesn't do any good to tell a person you shouldn't be disturbed by it when they're disturbed by it.
now here's salvation. Nathan, Gary, and all you others out there. Here's the key to it. And I had to find this out for my personal endeavors. I done bound the devil. I done rebuked him and loosed him. And he's confused. He don't know whether to be loosed, to boost, to goosed. I have tried eating my way out of it. It's as simple as this. Like I always give the example of a man in a house, a block room, a building. He's got 50 feet thick walls and floors, and the only thing he got in there is a table, a saw, and a hammer. And if he's in there, he got no windows and no doors.
You told us he only had a saw and a table.
I just say a saw and a table. Either way, you're not going 50 feet of concrete. You're not going to even with a hammer beat your way out of that. And you're not going to be able to saw your way out because the saw won't cut brick. Okay? And all you got in there is just what I said, a hammer and a saw and a table. Now, how would you get out? It's as simple as this. Somebody said, well, Reverend, I'll take my hammer and beat my way out. It's going to take a while, but if I can't saw my way out, how to get out? I said, you take that saw and saw that table in half. Two halves make a what? A hole. You go out through that hole. Now that sounds like a trick, but it's that simple. I'm telling you this because I'm just like you. We are the same. Memories of the past, the shotgun, the moonshine, the beating, the abuse.
They do not go away.
That is in the black box.
There are only two ways that the triggers and the memories will go away, and that is if you get Alzheimer's or amnesia.
When I found out that everybody that went to church with me, even in our prophetic churches and everything, everybody deal with it. And here's what they think is the easiest way. You got to get prayed up. You got to seek God more. You got to get somebody to lay hands on you. And you see what happened when they laid hands on me? They wore my head bald, trying to get out of me what was in the black box. The only thing I know that would help, not even help, solve the problem. You got to turn your face to that part of you that is completely removed from the black box. And that part of you that is removed from the black box is your eternal self.
So and that's so true. So what we end up doing most of the time, the majority of the time, is we end up trying to get rid of the bad feeling.
Yeah, military guys going to war, same thing.
Trying to get rid of the bad feeling. When when you can actually sit with the feeling and say, here it comes again,
Yeah.
without giving it interest, without giving it attention. The more attention it gets, the bigger it
And a
gets.
New Year's resolution don't get rid of it.
So, I mean, it sounds too oversimplified, maybe.
It does. But I'm telling you, this that we're talking about this morning is where the rubber meets the road, and where salvation, deliverance really take. It's not like. Look, we stayed in deliverance and binding and loosing. I'm not telling you that it don't work. Put it like this. When it comes down to eternal self and eternal God, use anything you can find in that eternal way to move on beyond this.
Now, I'm at a point, I don't know if I should say this or not, but anyway, I'm at a point where I'm kind of...
Remember, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm kind of not liking to hear people talking about they're walking around in bliss.
Okay.
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Okay.
That they're walking around without having those bad feelings ever. I think that they mean they are now not giving those feelings and those thoughts their attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when it's not given attention, they remain for a moment, but then they dissipate. And they don't last long because it needs your attention to stay there and to stay alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when a bad feeling comes, yes, I ask myself, why am I feeling like this? But then I remember it's not the I that I am that's feeling like this. It's one that is disturbed, and I am not the disturbed. So again, walking from your knowing, not your feeling, your knowing. You are not the disturbed. You're not disturbed by the triggers. You're not disturbed by the memory. You are not the one who is disturbed. So there is one that's disturbed, but it is not who you are.
That feeling that you are the memories in the black box.
Yeah, now Phyllis said this, and I like what Phyllis said. She said the I that's remembering is connected to the black box.
There you go.
Good preaching, Phyllis. Good preaching.
There you go.
Good preaching, honey bun. Yes, the I that is remembering is connected to the black box. The I that is remembering is also connected to the memory of what has been done or not done, and it is identifying itself. That is how it sustains its identity.
There is a false belief, that believes that it is still tied to the black box.
There you go.
And the stuff in the black box.
All my old identities are in the black box.
Now, the let go part of it is the real you revealing the let go of. I don't know how you put it in words.
That's
like that.
good. But let me read some of these comments. Thank you, Judy. I'm glad you're laughing. And Oliver says, until the localized self, the finite mind, dissolves itself back into its infinite self or awareness, the localized self will experience some level of suffering. Exactly. I call it, like I said at the very beginning of the session today, let's bring our minds into our hearts. Our mind has to live in our heart, and our mind likes to stay in the black box. Our mind is the black box.
Yeah.
And then Diane says, I am presence is becoming aware of these triggers, these charges, these fears, and I bless it with the light of awareness and forgiveness. Thank you, Diane. That's good.
You know, it is a never-ending story. That is facing a never-ending true identity.
Wow. Say that again.
There is a never-ending story that's constantly facing a never-ending...
I forgot the last
never-ending identity.
Yeah.
A never-ending self. There is a fake you.
Yeah.
A fake identity.
Or a little you.
A fake identity that's been developed That's what gives off the idea of the odor that none is perfect. That's it. It's that odor in the black box that comes up with a smell. You walk in the house and hear this. Somebody walk in the house and say, "Why your house smell like chicken? Are you cooking chicken today?" That's the black box.
Yeah.
It'll say, or they'll say, or the black box will speak out of the mouth. There it goes. No, honey, that was been a week ago. When you gonna get that smell out? That smell's still in there.
So what we're
If you're
dealing
not
with,
careful, you would swear that they're cooking chicken on the spot. You don't see no pan on the stove, but here's what the charge used in the black box: imagination.
now I like what Oliver said as well. He said, just like a virus needs a host to survive, the separated self needs a host or attention to survive. And that is true. And I always say it like this: the mind doesn't have power of its own. It's using your power.
Hey,
It's using your power.
I give you something that's crazy. We had dogs, and some dogs are show more expression than others. We had this dog named Coco and Bernie, and they had gas real bad. So people come to see us, and we be sitting there, and our nose be just a wiggling on the end, and somebody say, "What did that smell I smell?" That's the black box. But it's a black butt too, because that dog
Oh my God.
did it, but it's like he transferred it over into a human being or somebody sitting in the house. And if you don't know what to recognize, it's like for instance on my sewing machine. When I'm sewing on my sewing machine, Brother Oliver, you know it, and some of the rest of it, I can tell by the way that machine sounds that the bobbin or the thread is jammed up and it's run out.
Yeah.
In the black box, you need to be so proficient with your true self that has no connection with the black box at all, except
It
you
is aware.
is aware of it, and it says you can embrace it now from your true self because you now know it's not you doing
So
it.
that tells me that many of us have not yet become aware of being aware. We are aware of, but we're not aware of being aware. Just being the aware.
That's what she said. Isn't that something?
Yes, just witnessing. Just witnessing.
Yeah,
Just being an observer
yeah.
of what's being presented in my experience. Just being an observer of it without judgment, without an attachment, without interest in getting rid of. You allow it to float up, you see it, you experience it, and then it floats, then you allow it to float down. It's not about when it floats up, oh, I don't want that to be here. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want. Be aware of what's happening and being presented in your space. And that being presented to you in your space is not you, but it is being presented from the memories of the things that took place while you have been in this form. And so it is going to come back. It always, like you said, it has a black box anniversary. Comes up. It's got a trigger to bring it back up. For anniversaries to come up, you just need a date. That date is the trigger. There, it could be a sound. It could
That's
be.
right.
It could be the rain. It could be a temperature. It could be a smell. It can be something I see, a color. It could be anything. So we can't get rid of those things, but we can let them float up with and be presented in our space and look at that. Be aware of being aware. I'm aware of this. And then allow it to leave our experience by just staying aware.
Now, I say these things in metaphor that sounds a little derogatory, but I'm putting it out there on you. You say, well, Christians don't talk like this and Christians don't say this. Look, that's
And we're not just talking to Christians.
No,
though.
we're talking about everyday conditions that take place. But now remember this: you are always in the there-ness position. You are always, and look, even if the black box is working, bringing things up, the power of the black box existing and continue to function is coming from your energy of attachments.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, you don't. And I'm not. I don't want to. I don't want to make it sound too that like we walk around all day when something a mood or something comes up, walk around all day trying to transcend it. You've got to live spontaneously, and so the feelings will come up, thoughts will come up,
Mm-hmm.
memories will come up.
Mm-hmm.
Live with them. Live
Mm-hmm.
with your demons.
From position of your eternal self.
Live with your demons and get to the place where your demons won't disturb you
That's right.
because we all have them. And so sometimes I'll just kind of look and say, oh, here we go
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Here we
Mm-hmm.
go. And the one who taught me that was Judith Baldwin.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, she
Mm-hmm.
came to speak for us when we were on Wendover in that large building.
Mm-hmm.
And she spoke to a bunch of us. It was about 200 of us that day.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, whenever those things come up, she says, here comes little Judith. And actually, she gave
Mm-hmm.
that little me a name. And she said, here that little girl comes again.
Mm-hmm.
And she loved it and nurtured it. And believe it or not, that was her way of transcending it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you have to find your way to transcend it, but that it cannot be with resentment. You won't
yeah.
transcend it with resentment.
Look, he said, pause, don't touch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, whenever you hear the word don't, you see that little boy walking that puddle of water. Junior, don't step in that
Don't
water.
step in that water.
You just told him to step in it.
Step in it, right?
Step in
Because
it.
there's something in our human nature that wants to do what we've been told not to do.
That's right. That's right. Now, you're no longer trying to hide something, or something that is hid is no longer hid when you understand your infinite awareness identity, because you can look at anything, you can be around anything in that black box, and because you got to go back fully persuaded. And when I say that, it's a metaphor again. You got to be fully convinced in something that you are not the junk in the black box.
Yeah. Now I know when my mom, I often say my mom taught me, in being her caregiver, she had Alzheimer's. She taught me so much. One of the things she taught me was how not to resent what is.
Mm.
And I learned that by having to go to take care of her when I didn't feel like it. And I hated having to go and having to deal with it. And I recall the time when I had so much resentment because I felt like I didn't deserve to have to be the one to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't fall on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that resentment of having to be the one, I had to let that play out.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get rid of the resentment. I had to let it play
That's
out
right. That's right.
until I realized I had a recognition, a pure recognition of who it was I was going to take care of, and who it was that was going to take care of that one.
The prodigal son had the same problem at home. His black box opened up.
Yeah, and when I had that pure recognition that it was Christ going over there to take care of mom, and that it was Christ that I was going over there to take care of.
Sometimes you have to deliberately
the resentment left
Yeah.
at that pure recognition. So what's missing for a bunch of us is the pure recognition of who it is that's going through these different experiences, who it is that is dealing with all of these different things.
Now, the reason why we close our eyes in bed at night to go to sleep is because we're getting ready to open our eyes into the spirit self.
And we need a break from
That's
the
the
monkey
break.
mind.
That's right. Now, what we're talking about 24/7, we're talking about walking with your eyes open in this world, with your attention focused on your no sleeping identity.
Yes.
It is the moment of awareness of already being awake.
The pure recognition
Pure recognition.
of
That's it.
who
That's
you
it.
are and
That's it.
who it is
That's it.
that's
That's it.
being
That's
presented
it. That's
to
it.
you.
That's
They
right.
may be presented to you in a persona that you do not like, but
Now,
it is still Christ being presented to you so that you can have the pure recognition of who it is standing there that is
mm-hmm,
being presented to. And so at that pure recognition comes such a freedom from the
mm-hmm,
ego, not a
mm-hmm,
freedom as the
mm-hmm,
ego. Freedom
mm-hmm.
as the ego is, I want to get rid of all these bad feelings. I want to get rid of all these bad thoughts. I don't want to be disturbed internally anymore. All that's freedom as an ego. My ego doesn't like any of that. My mind
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like any of that. But freedom from it is when I have a pure recognition of who I am and who it is that I am dealing with or not dealing with, that I'm interacting with. And when that pure recognition takes place, all the resistance falls away. It's automatic. It's really, really
What actually
automatic.
free you is when you find out you are always free and they always have been free and never was the black box junk. Now, another thing that
Well, you taught me part of this too, because you always use this scripture where Jesus said, "When I was sick, you visited me.
mm-hmm,
When I was hungry, you fed me."
mm-hmm,
I had to come to a recognition that it was He who is doing that as me,
that's right.
and there really was no me.
That's right.
That was just He doing it.
Yeah.
And that was He that was going to take care of Himself.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
when that takes place, that pure recognition hits you, your permanent identity emerges.
Oh, guys, you say cause your monkey don't have to show your tail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just because uh, this is what gets you into the illusion, faith, foolishness, and presumption. It's not saying that these things are not there, but you're saying that because they are there, I have found out what is on the other side of this thing
And who it
and
is
who it is.
that is being presented
I mean,
to.
it's just a matter. Now, what we're talking about now, we were never ever taught this out of the whole time we've been in church, and since we've been in church now with this information, we were never told that we were so free to not be the junk in the black box.
And that our freedom
Glory be to
comes
God.
from a seeing of who you are. Your freedom comes from the absolute pure seeing
Yeah.
of who you are. Once that
The
seeing,
light blinds.
oh my God.
You are the light that shines bright 24/7.
And you said this.
Hey, we're not talking just outside our net.
No,
we're talking what we
you're
have to
not.
practice.
Exactly.
Oh.
And so the practice is your labor to enter into rest.
Yeah.
The rest is this is Christ
And it's
that's
not
going through this
that's right.
life.
And it's not foolish presumption like confessions and positive thinking. It's not that. You get beyond that.
And this Christ has inherited
Yeah.
the black box.
Yeah. And he got to learn how to deal with this monkey.
Exactly.
Deal with this monkey thing.
Exactly.
Jesus on the boat had to deal with the disciples. Oh, come on, that was you in there. You were dealing with it then, and you're still dealing with it now. But here's the victory. The victory is not something that come and go. The victory is being aware that you are the absolute freedom of God with this black box on your boat, in your plane, in your ship.
Yes, and I like what Oliver says. We are the seeing, not the seer.
Ah,
Yes, we are the seeing.
Okay.
The seeing is us. That's the awareness. That's the awareness that is seeing. We just, that is what we do.
Getting
That is what we
unstuck.
do.
That's right, Miss Phyllis. You know, unstuck. You know, you really haven't gotten in the mud. It's just an illusion of the story that gives off from the black box that you're stuck in the mud.
And the belief that there is another power other than God.
I am so glad you guys are responding to this and coming back to us, because it is the way. When we can talk back to each other like this, we can hear God speaking through us in everyday conversation
Yes,
beyond the black box.
Yes.
Thank you.
You guys preach to us, we preach to you. We're each other's reminder. We remind. We're reminding.
Re-anchor us in our true
each
identity.
other.
Now,
Yes.
we're getting ready to go now. We got a minute or two. I want you guys to respond to us continually, and we'll be back with you again on Tuesday night at 7. And we want you guys to stay into a good place of identifying with everything beyond the black box.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
study
Yes.
yourself, study
Yes.
your true identity. Thank you for the gifts that are coming in through Cash App and through our
PayPal.
PayPal.
And I think Jill has already put that there.
Yeah.
And thank you for those of you who are giving to Cornerstone. Keeping Cornerstone as a virtual church alive.
That's right. That's
and,
what we
and
are
going.
now. That's right.
It still has expenses, even though there's not a building. It still has expenses. So thank you for contributing your tithes and your
Right.
offerings.
Right.
Thank you, Cornerstoners, who have been with us for years,
Cornerstoniers.
who continue to commit to that
And you know
every
what?
Sunday.
Some of you guys are carrying around in your black box histories and events of past church trauma and experiences.
I want to encourage you to hit that link right now, because if you wait until we get off and you start doing something else, you might forget.
Yeah,
Because
don't do that.
I forget. So if you do it now while you're sitting here and you're listening to us, you'll know that it's done and you won't have to worry about it, forgetting it. So we just want to thank you and have a happy new year. Look, baby girl has already gotten my stimulus. It's already spent.
Yeah.
But I'm also believing for them to come to an agreement for us to get more of a stimulus so that we can be beneficial, so to benefit us and spur us forward, catapult us into our abundance. So, and for those who are really needing help, they will get the help that they need.
Yes.
So that is our prayer right now. And
Thank you
guys so much.
And our time is up, and we'll see you next time in the time zone at 7 on Tuesday night
We'll see you in the soup.
in the soup. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, you guys.